Look at this. A wall made of wagons. 2,000 men are inside it, and right now, that wall is breaking. His own men had to grab him and pull him back by force. The next 90 seconds decide everything, live or die, the same way they did for the last British army. 21,000 warriors are out there, and behind the wagons, just 2,000 men. It's the same army that wiped out a British force twice this size, 6 weeks earlier, at a place called Isandlwana. Do the math. This isn't close. This is a massacre waiting to happen. Except one man already broke that math before a single shot was fired. Not with more men, and not with better guns. With one decision his own officers thought was madness. And this is that story. Isandlwana. Say that name to any British soldier in 1879, and watch his face change. An entire column was wiped out in one single morning. King Cetshwayo never wanted this fight. The British showed up uninvited, but his warriors won anyway, and overnight, everything changed.
We must strike them
One more
here
victory like that, and the British might beg for peace.
before they reach the river.
Or one more victory, and they come back 10 times angrier. There's no version of this where it just ends quietly. For the first time, these warriors weren't just carrying spears, they were carrying rifles. British rifles pulled straight from British hands, and they already knew how to fire them. This is the army marching toward Kambula. They've already won once, and they're already armed with your own guns. And they're about to meet one man, a man who studied exactly how you won, so he could make sure it never happens again. Colonel Wood understood something the dead men at Isandlwana never figured out in time. Out here, there's no wall to hide behind, so your camp becomes the wall. Wagons, locked into a hexagon with 6 sides and no easy way in. All cannons point north, exactly where the scouts said the enemy was coming from. 2 more guns cover the last open angle, those couldn't reach. 1,200 infantry, 600 more on horseback, 2,000 men in total, against 10-to-1 odds. No hill, no river, just flat open ground in every direction. Most commanders would call that a death trap. Wood called it an invitation. It's morning, and the scouts come riding back too fast.
Push them harder, Kambula.
They found the army,
We are almost there.
and it's already
Sir,
moving.
Enemy movement
They're heading
detected.
straight for
They are
Kambula,
breaking
due to
formation.
arrive by noon.
Heading straight for
Wood
the
built
bridge.
this fortress
They will
without
be here
knowing
soon.
when the real test would come. And now he knows it's today. By midday, they don't need the scouts anymore. They can see it with their own eyes. 8 kilometers out, organized into 5 columns, the exact same formation that broke the British at Isandlwana. 21,000 men. And every soldier behind those wagons can count exactly how badly outnumbered they are. Here's what most people never tell you about this battle. These men hadn't eaten in 3 full days. Their commanders pushed them hard, believing speed had won the last fight and would win this one too. Instead, they arrived starving, and starving men don't have patience left. They only have anger left to fight with. Before the real attack even started, thousands of warriors swept around to the side. It's the same flanking move that wiped out an entire British column 6 weeks earlier. Every officer who heard about Isandlwana knew exactly what they were looking at. Wood gave
must
Buller
take
an
your
order
column.
that sounds completely insane.
Break through
Ride
the
out
enemy
there,
lines.
provoke them, and
Get the
then
message.
run. 600 men riding straight at thousands of warriors. Not to win, just to pick the fight on Wood's terms instead of theirs. One volley, 200 yards, close enough to hurt them but far enough to run. Then the trap finally sprang. Except it wasn't the Zulus who walked into it. They turned and ran, and thousands of furious warriors chased after them. Straight into the one place Wood had spent 2 weeks building for exactly this moment. The second Buller's men cleared the gates. The guns opened up right over their heads, straight into the warriors behind them. The same warriors so eager to finish the chase ran face first into exactly what Wood wanted. Thousands of warriors, scattered and thrown into chaos before the real fight even started. One volley, and one moment of impatience, cost the Zulu army their best shot at the same trap that won at Isandlwana. Here's something almost no documentary mentions.
Take this.
Some of Wood's
Seal your
own
nerves.
infantry had
I feel like
convinced
I can fight
themselves
an
that
army.
doctor's tonics, handed out before the battle, made them immune to Zulu bullets. It wasn't true, of course it wasn't true, but belief does strange things to men. A handful of soldiers broke ranks completely and charged straight into open ground. Seconds, that's all it took. The same shrapnel meant to protect them caught them instead. The medicine gave them courage. It didn't give them anything else. And this fight still had hours to go. The main attack hit the north wall like a wave. For a long, brutal stretch, the wall held until one single gap finally didn't. A handful of warriors found it, a small gap just wide enough. They forced their way through, straight into the heart of the camp. This is the moment the entire battle turns on. If that gap widens and more warriors follow through, the wall isn't a wall anymore. It's a cage, and they're the ones locked inside it. Wood tried to go himself, but his own men held him back. Not out of disrespect, they understood something he couldn't see in that moment. If Wood falls, no one is left to hold this line. There's only one answer to a breach like this. Not rifles, not cannons, just cold steel. 2 companies with bayonets fixed, charging across ground full of terrified cattle and desperate men. They drove the warriors back through the same gap they broke in through. And this time, it got sealed for good. 2 minutes. That's how long the wall actually failed for. Now it's a wall again. And outside it, the warriors who almost broke through are about to learn what happens to anyone who tries that twice. The wounded man Wood tried to reach survive, carried back in by the same charge that sealed the gap. Sometimes the men who hold you back are the reason you're both still breathing by nightfall. The gunners switch over to case shot, hundreds of lead balls packed into a single shell. Built for one job, turning open ground into a place where nothing survives standing in it. That open ground in front of the wagons becomes exactly what Wood designed it to be from day one. A killing zone, with nowhere left to hide.
Forcing them to break formation.
And still, they come again, exhausted, starving, and badly outgunned. But not broken, because giving up was never an option these men were trained for. Inside the wagons, it's become a rhythm now. Load, aim, fire, reload, over and over, by hands shaking with exhaustion. The second that rhythm breaks, the wall breaks with it. Volley after volley, charge after charge. Hours of this now, with no rest for the men inside, no food for the men outside. Something has to give, and the only question left is what runs out first, bullets or men. As the sun finally drops, the attacks begin to slow. Not because they chose to stop, but because there's simply nothing left in their bodies to keep going with. Wood stands at the edge of his own wall and watches the army that should have destroyed him walk away instead. The British lost under 100 men, while the Zulu army lost over 1,000, maybe closer to 2,000. Numbers like that don't really tell you what happened here. Out there in the dark are men who marched 3 days without food, only to die on this field. For a war they never asked to fight. For a king who never wanted it to stop. When the news reaches Cetshwayo, he understands it instantly. Isandlwana was won with patience, with surprise, on ground his own warriors had chosen. Kambula was fought entirely on someone else's terms, and his army paid for that difference with thousands of lives. There's no celebration inside Wood's camp, just quiet and exhaustion. Just 2,000 men realizing they stood against 21,000, and they're still alive to talk about it. This didn't end the war, but it broke something important. The army that had won every fight before this one stops winning here, on an open plain, against nothing but wagons, and a colonel who refused to do the obvious thing. Wood never called this a triumph, not once in his own letters home. He called it the day his preparation was finally tested and held. By the smallest margin, against the largest army he would ever face. Today, there's just a stone standing on an empty field. Nothing else is left. Not the wagons, not the guns, not the men who fought here for one single afternoon in 1879. If this stayed with you, leave a like and subscribe. The battles that decide history aren't always the famous ones. Sometimes they're just the ones where someone refused to lose the same way twice.